Welcome back. Namibian women in the media sector have and continue to play a pivotal role in shaping and advancing the nation's development on various platforms within the fraternity. For our Woman Crush Wednesday, we put the spotlight on the journey of creative director, content strategist and filmmaker. Othilia Mungoba, better known as Tutu, is a creative powerhouse with 20 years of experience in broadcasting, specializing in television production and film, whose passion and expertise continues to impact the industry. She is no stranger to the Daily Roundup, and she now joins us in studio to share her insight and her creative endeavors. Tutu.
Hi, I like the introductions. Every time I come back home, you guys make me feel so lekker. Thank you for welcoming me.
It's intentional. Thank you so much for being here. Of course, I know who Tutu is, but and we've worked together for many years. But somebody who's watching who doesn't know who Tutu is, tell us about yourself and your journey, Tutu.
Gosh, where do I begin?
Make it brief.
It's been over 20 years, as you mentioned. Started off as a kiddies presenter. Went off.
Was that Sunshine Kids?
So we were the supporting crew of Sunshine Kids. So when Patrick, Sam, and Tuna and the twins couldn't make it, then we were called in to do the subs. From then on, production T-girl, production runner. Went over to College of the Arts. We were the first intake. Then came back as a production assistant. Went over to study and specialize in broadcasting at Wits University. Came back, assistant producer, over to producer. Went back to corporate comm, and then advertising space, and then came back to the NBC as a senior producer. So it's always been radio, television, but then I was quite intentional of branching out into the other sectors of the media fraternity. So I've done work as a creative director for theater, for in the advertising space as well, and then also for print. So for, I think since I was 20, I was very much intentional about my growth in the industry. I really wanted to sit in meetings and boardrooms and organizations, and people could have technical discussions and I wouldn't be left out. Production discussions and I wouldn't be left out. So in a nutshell, that's just Othilia Mungoba, but people sometimes get it wrong, like is Tutu and Othilia the same person? So sometimes those who know the name Othilia Mungoba think I'm old Kazali, but I'm actually young at heart.
What, sort of inspired that intention at 20 years old to say, this is definitely the route I want to take. Media is, my career path. Because, of course, at 13, when you're a stand-in presenter for Sunshine Kids, I don't think at 13 many people know what it is that they want to be. So you had some time in the industry. At 20, you made this decision that this is definitely what I want to do. What inspired that?
I know the story has been told over and over, and it might sound cheesy. So I'm the first of many grandchildren. So I used to chill and hang with old people. And what do old people do? Old people talk a lot. So they always have stories to tell. So I was very much fascinated about storytelling. So it doesn't matter what platform or what arena was used. And my grandparents used to love listening to radio. And they used to, I think we were one of the first in my neighborhood to get the black and white television. It just seemed magical. I know, like, for my age and those people who know me well, I can be very childlike. So in my field, I'm able to tap into all those parts of me, Tutu the grown-up, Tutu the teenager, Tutu the infant, the toddler, and just telling stories in those different forms. But I think what makes it magical is that creatives are mediums of storytellers, of stories in whatever society we occupy, and that we take up space. I was just intentional about telling stories, Nina. Ek wil nie sê ek is 'n story back nie. I don't want to gossip story lorry. But I think that's been the magic for me always, just telling stories. And of course, if you come to the formal part of it, I think in molding and shaping and the ideologies of who we are as a society, especially for you started off reading the news highlights. So if somebody has missed the news in the course of the day and they tune into you, they know exactly what has happened for the recap of before we go into the 8 o'clock bulletin. Nina, stories. That's what who we are makes us as people.
Yeah. Tutu, when we have a WCW, a Woman Crush, on Wednesdays on our platform, it's usually to speak to women who inspire us, and that we think deserves a platform because she can be inspirational to, the public at large. Who are some of the influential women in your life, and how have they impacted you?
So we came to see you earlier this year with my sister in film, Takalako. And it was not disheartening, but it's eye-opening to see that many of those who inspire me are not really women. Because I grew up in the space and time of broadcasting where it was male-driven. Yeah. So also in the theater space as well, also in the spoken word spacing as well. So for me, it has almost never been women. You have individuals like the late David Chavera, who has been my mentor, and still after that he's not here, like for over 20 years. He was my drama teacher when I was 12. Freddie Philander was my drama teacher when I was 10. And then you've got Molapong Joseph, who is a poet and author of note. Then you have NBC's finest, which is Ted Scott. And Jules van der Poort, who started off the media fraternity with Ted Scott at College of the Arts. So it's never been women per se. From an intern perspective, you have people like Miranda Stein, great storyteller, great producer, great creative. And it was quite difficult for me because even now, as I'm branching into documentary making, there's not really women that I really look up to. So for me, I'm just a sponge of information. I get inspired by children. I get inspired by the auntie who sells kapana by the street. I get inspired by the security guard who welcomed me into the NBC premises. Everybody is a source of inspiration, and very much so the people that you don't get to see. The people that you don't get to, who are not in the spotlight. Not the lady who did your hair, the lady who did your makeup, the lady who did your dress, or the gentleman who dressed you, for example. I know sometimes what I say, it seems very cliche because I look at things from a different perspective.
You definitely do. I think that's what you need to have in the space that you're dabbling into. You need to have a different perspective to be able to tell great stories. You shouldn't see the world the way everybody else sees them. Over a 20-year span of a career in the field that you are in, what are some of your most memorable achievements?
Oh, goodness gracious. We are us as modern day broadcasters, we're in a very vital and pivotal stage now where we're able to influence agenda of the day. And many people don't know that people who write the news, people who tell stories, people who do films are in a space where they can influence mindsets. There's so many productions over the years. When we did the election coverage, since I've been at the NBC for the past 7-8 years, the documentaries and the films that I was able to do under the Cecil Muller project, and then of course my documentaries as well. As you know, I've gone independent now, so I've got 2 creative offerings under my name: The Weight of Tomorrow, which did quite well, and then Fera, which was just recently released. And of course I'm working on my new documentary. I can't really say much yet, but I think those are the ones that stand out a lot. I know that in 2018 I did my first theater staging under the Ben Ventuk Theater School project. So that was also a great one. And then of course radio shows that I've done in the past. So I am an ensemble of a creative director, and I think that's maybe where I can be boastful and really blow my own trumpet. That if people say, okay, have you worked in theater? Yes. Have you worked for radio? Yes. Have you worked for print? Yes. Have you worked for TV? Yes. So I think what is happening now, Nina, and what I'm probably looking forward to, not what I've done, but what I'm looking forward to, is really shaping and influencing the online space. because that's where we as Namibians are going to now.
The world is going to.
Exactly. So we are just piggybacking on that train, and a lot of people think that we've forgotten about radio. No, but radio has gone digital. Radio is on your cell phone. Radio is on television through other audio channels. So just that transition and that marriage is really what I'm interested in looking forward to doing next.
Before they tell us we're out of time,
yes.
Tutu, I just want to know, I was going to ask you about your future projects, but you said you didn't want to give away too much, so I guess we'll have to have you back yet again. But I want to know what keeps you motivated and inspired in your line of work?
I think really questioning myself. It's not really good to say this, but failure. I failed so much, Nina. It makes you humble. It makes you hungry. Not everything is hunky-dory. I think if you have a sunny day, you would never know that you need to have an umbrella on standby, or a hat, or sunscreen, or, you know. So I look at my rainy days as insight to my sunny side. So it really, even like now what I'm going through, I was able to leave my job, my 8 to 5, my fringe benefits, my medical aid, my pension plan, darling, and really go back to school, because I really realized that I don't know much. 20 years is nothing. Especially here in this Namibian industry, you might think you're doing well. Oh, Othilia Mungoba, yeah. If you go to Nigeria and you go to America, nobody knows you, baby girl. So how can you compete on an international fraternity without doubting yourself? So self-doubt has really been my pusher. How can I not have sleepless nights and say, I'm going to Nina's show, I'm able to deliberate and talk about things without second-guessing my insight to it. Yeah, so that's been one of it.
Tutu, I wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Thank you so much for being here, and I look forward to having you back.
Nina, you know, I also have stuff to tell you. You're looking beautiful.
Thank you so much.
You are glowing. You've just gone over a year and 3 months of your show. This is your baby. It's got teeth. It's walking now. Darling, you've done so well. The NBC is doing so well with carrying local content and being able to give shows signatures that have a face and a name to it. So somebody in Okahau knows your show. Somebody in Oranjemund knows your show. Somebody sitting in Tumkwe sees your show. And I think really that's just the magic of who we are. And if they miss an episode, they can also go online to go see. Yes. So thank you for continuing the magic. Thank you for being that girl, though. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
That was the ever-vibrant Othilia Tutu Mungoba speaking to us this evening as our WCW. That also wraps up today's edition of the Daily Roundup with Nina. We're back tomorrow, same time and place.